It wasn't the wine. It was the way she held the glass, like she was daring me to believe her. I met her the week the heat wave knocked out the power on my side of the street. I was carrying a busted fan and 3 cords tangled like spaghetti when she opened her front door, barefoot, squinting, backlit in late July light. Her name was Claire. She lived across the hall, apartment 4B, the one with the ivy plants and blackout curtains. I'd passed her in the stairwell before, maybe twice. She always wore headphones, always nodded without smiling. She didn't remember me. She said, "Yours out too?" I nodded, trying not to stare at the soft line of sweat just below her collarbone. Yeah, no AC, no internet, no mercy. Her laugh was low and quick. "Tell me about it. My freezer's bleeding to death. You want a cold drink before it all turns to soup?" I hesitated, just long enough that she noticed. She raised an eyebrow. "It's just 1 glass of wine." I followed her in. Her apartment was cooler than mine, darker too. It smelled like jasmine and books and something faintly smoky. A fan hummed from the bedroom, and somewhere behind a door, a slow jazz record played like it had been forgotten. She poured 2 glasses of wine, white and sweating from the bottle, and slid mine across the counter. "You look young," she said after a beat. I smiled into my glass. "You look like someone who says that a lot." She didn't laugh this time, just sipped, tilted her head slightly, studying me. Not in a flirtatious way, in that curious, careful way someone does when they're deciding whether they'll let you stay. I told her my name. She said hers again, though I already knew it. Claire. She didn't mention an age, and I didn't ask. But the silver thread in her hair caught the light when she moved, and there was a quiet sadness in the corners of her mouth that told me she'd once loved someone who left. We didn't talk much, just sat. Her elbow rested close enough to mine on the counter that I could feel the warmth of her skin when I shifted. I watched the condensation slide down her glass, her fingers lightly tracing the rim as she stared out the window. I said something dumb. About the heat, probably. Or the music. She looked at me then, properly. Eyes steady, lips parted like she might say something, then stopped herself. Outside, the sun fell below the buildings, leaving only the gold outline of day behind. A breeze made the curtains breathe in and out. She stood, walked over to the record player, lifted the needle, silence rushing in like a vacuum. Then she turned back toward me, wine still in hand, voice soft. "People don't usually come in." I nodded, swallowed something dry. "I won't stay long." Claire stepped closer, not too close, and placed her glass beside mine, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't say I wanted you to leave." And then her fingers brushed mine. Not an accident. Not this time. It didn't feel like I was in her apartment. It felt like I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. She moved differently now, slower, deliberate, like she was aware of the space between us, like she was testing the edges of it. Claire offered me another glass. I didn't say yes. I just didn't stop her. I watched her wrist as she poured. A pale, slender scar near the thumb. Old. Faint. I almost asked about it, then didn't. "I'm probably keeping you," she said, leaning against the counter again, one hand wrapped around the stem of her glass, the other resting flat beside mine. I shook my head. "Not really. No power, no plans." She smiled but didn't meet my eyes. "Right? College boy in the summer. Must be a rough life." It wasn't teasing, more like deflection. I glanced at the stack of envelopes near her toaster. One from a law office, another from a clinic. They weren't mine to look at, but I saw them anyway. Her fingers moved to cover them without thinking. "My life's kind of between things right now," she said. "I'm not where I thought I'd be." I waited. She didn't explain. Her wedding ring, or where it should have been, left a faint, untanned line on her finger. "I just got out of something," she added after too long a pause. 10 years. Married. He moved to Seattle last month. Took the dog. Left the house. She sipped again. I kept the rent. I didn't know what to say to that. And honestly, I wasn't thinking clearly. I was thinking about the way she kept touching the rim of her glass, like she needed something to hold. The way she never asked about my age, even though I could feel the number sitting between us like a lit match. I could have said something easy, something safe. But instead I said, "He's an idiot." Her eyes flicked to mine. A small shift in her jaw. Not a smile, not quite. She didn't argue. I could feel the moment getting heavier, like air thickening before a storm. I leaned back, ran a hand through my hair. Told myself this was just a weird summer night. Told myself I was just being polite. But then Claire stepped closer. Not bold, cautious. Her fingers brushed my forearm as she reached for something behind me. The wine opener she didn't need. She stayed close for a second too long. The air between us thinned. "I know I talk too much," she said quietly. "But sometimes the silence feels worse." I nodded, not sure what to do with my hands. "I can go," I said. She looked at me, long and unreadable. Her voice, almost nothing. "I didn't say I wanted you to. I should have left when the second glass was empty. But there's a silence some people pull you into, and with her, it never felt empty. Just quieter than I was used to." Claire moved around the kitchen like she'd forgotten I was there, humming something low and unrecognizable. Her shoulders were relaxed, but her eyes kept checking the window. Not nervously, like she was tracking time without a clock. "I used to cook here," she said suddenly. "A lot." He said I made the kitchen feel like a memory. Her voice cracked slightly on "used to," but she masked it with a shrug. "Now it's mostly coffee and microwaved guilt." I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but nothing good came. So I walked to the fridge, picked up a half-wrapped block of Parmesan like I knew what to do with it. "You still could," I said finally. "Cook, I mean, if it made you happy." She turned. Happiness is a weird thing to cook for one person. There it was again, that edge. Like everything she said meant more than what it sounded like. Then, the moment I still replay sometimes. She reached for the cabinet above me, and her hand brushed the side of my neck. Not in a romantic way, not directly, but the contact lingered. Fingertips grazing skin, her breath closer than it should have been. I didn't move. Neither did she. I caught myself watching her lips. She noticed. Her mouth parted, not to speak, but as if the words were getting caught in her teeth. And then buzz, buzz, buzz. Her phone lit up on the counter. Marcus' work flashing on the screen. She glanced at it, then back at me. Didn't answer. Let it ring out. "You should," I said, nodding at the phone. She didn't. "I'm not avoiding work," she said, setting the phone face down. "I'm avoiding returning to it." I laughed under my breath. "Yeah, big mood." She smirked. "Don't say that. You're too young to sound tired." I looked at her for a long second. "You think age makes you immune to being lost?" Claire blinked, caught off guard. She didn't reply. Instead, she stepped toward the sink, set her glass down, and exhaled like something heavy had just left her chest. "You're good at that," she said. "At what?" "Seeing things you probably shouldn't." The room felt warmer now. Or maybe that was just my face. She turned slowly, leaned against the counter again. Closer this time. The air between us tightened. "I'm not trying to cross a line," I said quietly. Claire tilted her head. "You already have." Her hand drifted toward mine on the counter. Hovered. Close enough that I could feel the heat of it. Then, barely audible, "So have I." If I touched her then, I wouldn't be able to pretend I didn't mean it. Claire's hand didn't quite land on mine. It hovered there, trembling just enough that I noticed, which meant she probably didn't want me to. I could have leaned into it. I didn't. My body wanted to. My chest, my hands, my mouth. But I stayed still because whatever this was, it was standing on a cliff edge, and one step in the wrong direction meant no way back. She pulled away first, not fast, just enough to say, I almost did something I'd regret. Or maybe I'd regret not doing it. She picked up her wine again, drained what was left. It was the way she held the glass that made me ache, tight-knuckled, like she was anchoring herself to something. I'm not sure what I'm doing, she said suddenly, voice low. You should know that. I watched her carefully. Neither am I. She let out a small breath, more exhale than sigh. You're, what, 22? 24, I said, like it made a difference. She nodded. Still, you have time to make beautiful mistakes. I don't. I stepped forward then, slowly. Why does this have to be a mistake? Claire looked at me like I'd said something dangerous. She set her glass down, steadied herself with one hand on the counter. Because I know how it ends, she said quietly. With me pretending I didn't feel anything. And you, in 5 years, wondering what the hell you were thinking. Her voice cracked slightly. And I can't go through that again. I can't be someone's phase. I swallowed hard. Is that what you think I'm doing? Treating you like some story to tell later? She didn't answer, didn't look at me, and I hated it. The way the room felt like it was closing in, how the silence wrapped around my ribs and squeezed. So I said what I shouldn't have. I think about you. That got her. Claire's eyes darted up, lips parting slightly. I think about the way you look when you're not smiling, I added. The way your hands shake when you talk about him. The way you leave your porch light on too long after midnight, like you're waiting for someone you won't admit you miss. She stared at me like I'd hit something raw. You don't know me, she whispered. I want to. Another silence. This one longer, heavier. Claire stepped closer, but not all the way. Her hands were at her sides now, fingers flexing like she didn't know what to do with them. And then, do you want me? She asked. Not flirtatious, not even seductive, just tired, brave, honest. I didn't answer, couldn't. I just looked at her, really looked, and the question didn't disappear. It just hung there, between us, sharp and breathless. It would have been easier if she'd yelled, or walked away, or even kissed me, but she just stood there, waiting for an answer I didn't know how to give. Do you want me? She'd asked, and I'd said nothing, not because I didn't want her, but because I wanted her too much and I didn't know what part of that was real, and what part was just the heat and the wine and the fact that she looked at me like I wasn't a mistake yet. But before I could speak, a knock, sharp, twice. Claire froze. We both stared at the door like it had teeth. She whispered, "Don't say anything," and crossed the room, adjusting her hair in the reflection of the dark TV screen. Her hands were shaking. I stayed in the kitchen, out of sight, heart thudding loud enough to count. She opened the door a crack. Claire? A man's voice, low, familiar, rehearsed. Her body stiffened. Marcus, you can't just show up. He stepped into the frame. I could only see a sliver of him, tall, buttoned down, slightly wet from the humid night. I left my charger, and I thought maybe we could talk. Her laugh was small, bitter. Now you want to talk? Marcus lowered his voice. Can I come in? Claire didn't move. No, he leaned in closer. Claire, please. And then his eyes shifted, past her, right to where I was standing. Too late to hide. He blinked, didn't speak, just looked at her again, quieter now. So that's where we are. Claire didn't explain. She didn't owe him that. But her silence, it said more than words could have. Marcus didn't yell. He just shook his head like he'd expected this somehow. I see, he said. Enjoy the mistake. Then he walked off. Door still open. Claire closed it gently, locked it. The click echoed. When she turned around, her face was unreadable. Eyes glassy, mouth tight. I should have told you, she said. I stepped forward. Told me what? She wiped at her cheek like it wasn't a tear. That he wasn't fully gone. Not legally. The divorce isn't final. And we keep circling back. Not because there's anything left, just because it's familiar. Because it's easy to fall back into someone who broke you when you're too tired to rebuild yourself alone. I didn't know what to say, and she didn't wait. I never wanted to drag you into this. You were just someone kind, and then you stayed. And I forgot how good that could feel. I walked toward her. You didn't drag me. She looked at me finally. You should hate me. I don't. Why not? And this time, I was the one who asked the question that hung. What if I don't care who left you? I just care that you're still here? I don't remember walking toward her. Just that I was suddenly close enough to see how hard she was trying not to cry. Claire stood still, arms folded like armor, but her face betrayed everything. The way her eyes shimmered, the way her jaw clenched. She was unraveling, and holding herself together in the same breath. I said her name, quiet, just enough for her to hear it differently. She looked at me like it hurt. Don't try to fix me. I've spent years trying to be someone else's second chance. I'm not here to fix anything, I said. I'm still learning how to fix myself. Silence. Claire stepped back, then forward again, unsure. Do you know how long it's been since I felt like I was seen? Not wanted for what I give, or how steady I am, or because someone's scared to be alone. Just seen. I swallowed. Yeah, I think I know. She exhaled, shaky. Then why does this scare me more than he ever did? That broke something in me. I reached out slowly, fingertips brushing her forearm. Not pulling, just letting her feel it was real. No pressure, no ask. I'm scared too, I said. Because I want this to mean something, and I know it might not be enough. Claire didn't answer right away. She looked down at my hand, then back at me. Her voice was barely audible. You're too young to carry me, and you're too strong to think you need carrying. She smiled at that. Barely, but it was real. Tired. Honest. The distance between us shrank. Not just physically, but all the spaces we'd been holding. The should-nots, the what-ifs, the timelines and age gaps and ghosts of people who didn't stay. All of it loosened. Then, softly, like she couldn't believe she was saying it. I wanted you the moment you said nothing. I didn't understand. The first night, she said. When I asked if you wanted to leave, and you didn't answer right away. You let the silence sit. You let me decide. No one ever does that. I stepped closer. She didn't move away. What now? I asked. Claire looked around the room, like she didn't recognize it anymore. Then she looked at me, really looked. Tired eyes. Bare skin. No makeup. Just her. I don't want a perfect story, she said. I just want one I don't have to lie about. I nodded. Then let's write it slow, I whispered. We don't owe anyone a rush. She reached for my hand this time, fingers threading through mine, trembling a little. And in that quiet room, with no more wine, no more pretending, no more doors between us. She didn't kiss me. She just leaned her head to my chest and stayed there. It didn't end in fire, or a kiss, or anything loud. It ended the way real beginnings do, with something quiet deciding to stay. That night, we didn't sleep together. We didn't undress each other or make promises we weren't ready to keep. We just sat on the couch until the sun began to warm the edge of her curtain, and she fell asleep with her head on my shoulder. And I didn't move, not for hours. When she woke, she didn't apologize. She looked at me and said, I haven't slept like that in years. It wasn't about the wine. It wasn't about me being younger. It was that, for the first time, she hadn't had to explain herself, not to be understood and not to be wanted. And for me, I stopped pretending I was just passing time that summer. I stopped calling it nothing serious when I thought about her. Because even when it scared her, even when she tried to pull away, she stayed. She let me see her, no versions, no filters, no safe exits. And I did too. Claire didn't rush anything after that night. She didn't wake up and suddenly want to be rescued. She still avoided her ex's calls, still left the light on sometimes, still made too much coffee in the mornings like she wasn't sure how not to expect company. But she let me in, bit by bit. I learned the rhythm of her silences. She learned how not to apologize for taking up space. We cooked together badly at first. She taught me how to salt pasta water, and I reminded her how to laugh mid-burnt toast. She never called it dating, but she stopped correcting people who did. We weren't trying to be perfect, just real, just there. And eventually, she looked at me one morning, tea in hand, hair still a mess from sleep, and said, "Maybe this isn't a mistake after all." I looked at her like I always did, like she was more than a moment I stumbled into. "You were never one," I said. And this time she didn't look away. What changed? Everything. Not all at once, but enough. She stopped running from the mirror. I stopped pretending my heart didn't know what it wanted. We let the world stay messy. And inside that mess we found something worth choosing, again and again. Even when it didn't make sense. Even when it scared the hell out of us. Did you enjoy the story? What moment stuck with you the most? Fountain pen, what kind of stories would you like to hear next? Love after loss? Slow burn friends to lovers? Hidden feelings between strangers? Let us know in the comments. And if you've ever had a connection that felt both wrong and right, tell us how it ended, or how it began.